someday we'll probably dive deeper into that and talk about it more. It's a really complex issue. They also seem to get a lot of the cultural appropriation, like, you know, people coming at them for cultural appropriation.
It's one thing to appreciate. Cultural appropriation should not be labeled for everything. That's just me.
Yeah. Like you haven't seen enough from you to have an opinion. I don't think on them specifically.
Yeah, I'm just saying in general.
I know you have a general opinion on that. But what I was gonna say is, like, in my opinion, like, if you're going to come for groups for cultural appropriation, don't pick a group and just go after that group. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so, like,
everything.
Yeah, or just, like, you can't pick and choose just based on who's your favorite and who's your not favorite, which I feel like happens to Mamamoo sometimes, personally.
I like when people appreciate. When people appreciate and they, like, replicate or, like I like that hairstyle, I'm going to do it. Like, I know that something, like, Jay was telling me about, there was a moment with Blackpink where something...
The hair. That was a hair one,
And so he was asking my opinion on it, and I was just like, she wanted some cornrows, or she wanted, like, the box braids.
It was like blue box braids, yeah.
Let the baby have box braids. I don't care. I don't care. It's just not a biggie.
I know you have, like, a kind of a different opinion than many other people. You know, and then there's other issues, like, Hwasa has said and done things because she's Korean, and I don't think she realizes, you know, like, they're from a different culture.
Right.
So they don't understand American cultural issues.
Right.
Like, race issues in our country are very complex, in case anyone out there didn't know.
I mean, they're not that complex. You don't have any issues here in America.
I think that, like, you know, sometimes Korean artists get really, like, roasted.
Right.
And it's often for, like, stuff they just wouldn't even know. Why would they know it? It's not their cultural issue. Like, don't make our issues their issues, because they're not theirs.
Right. And it's the same thing, like, you know, when we were talking about the school, like, let us know if this is a thing, because sometimes what people do is they make a big thing out of it, not thinking about perspectives as well.
Totally.
So was it because of the belly dance or because of the costumes that they used?
I actually stayed away from the argument because, like I said, I get annoyed with it, not because, like, people are wrong about the cultural appropriation, but because I didn't look into it, so I can't say if I think people are wrong about it.
Right.
Because of the people seem to target certain groups.
Okay.
And to me, that's not fair.
Right.
Like, if you're gonna go in on cultural appropriation, target everybody that's doing BTS included, because they've all done it. Yep. Every single one of them. I mean,
okay, once again,
everybody's.
I'm not gonna go into it.
I know. No, I think maybe you should say it now that we've talked about it enough. Like, you should give your stance on it, because I think people need.
Here's my thing. Then that means that everyone has appropriated somebody's culture,
right?
You know, we've talked about this before, where Black people don't have straight hair. Our hair is curly, coily, whatever, but we straighten it. So that means that we appropriated a European, you know, way of doing stuff. Yep. Like, it's stopped. Whenever I see something and if I appreciate it, you know, like, I'm gonna listen. So that means I shouldn't be listening to Korean music, if that's the case.
Essentially. Well,
my thing is, appropriation is when you take something and then you try to say that it's yours, that you've made it, that you was the one who originated from. That's culture appropriation in my, you know, definition. Appreciation is when I see something, I think that looks good, and I want to also do that. Like, it's a whole different thing. So clothes wise, we can only wear certain clothes. Like, I do understand that in regards to certain cultural traditional clothes, that you may want to know what you're wearing, because even as Black people, for us to go and put on a dashiki or, you know, anything African garb, like, Africans feel as though we've appropriated, but it's just an appreciation for the particular garb that you're wearing. So I went to Mauritius and I got a sari. I bought a sari with some bangles because I love Bollywood, Tamil, like, I love all of that. But it's because I appreciate it. I think it's beautiful. Why shouldn't we be able to you know, do that? like, I don't understand.
And to play devil's advocate, because
I mean, if you're going to do a belly dance, I mean, I would think that I would want to wear the belly dancing clothes as well, because A good belly dance without the clothes that goes with it.
Well, actually, you'd be disrespecting the art of belly dance, like, because if you go into it, if you do belly dancing and you don't wear the clothes, you're kind of disrespecting the art of the art form. But anyway, what I was gonna say is also Beyonce had an entire era that was that exact same concept. Anyway,
but I get you.
I think the devil's advocate piece is just who has power and who doesn't, and that's the part about appropriation.
Right.
So for me, though, that's what makes it different for me when Korean artists appropriate versus like white American artists.
Right.
Because like white American artists know and understand the power dynamic of like. Do you get my point though? Like,
here's the thing with that. So like, you know, I think it was one of the Kardashian girls where they did cornrows, but they made it seem as though it was like their own like creation. That's appropriation.
They made it seem like it was their own creation. Yeah. How did they do that? Like how do you make them?
Right. No. But you do have people from white America that really do appreciate black culture, black music, black, just
totally.
Yeah. And so my thing is like there's that line right there. So to me, to just be very clear cut what appropriation is and what it is not. And that's where I feel as though we don't really draw the line. Because I think Rihanna even got caught out there because she it was Rihanna or Beyonce, where they actually had on a sari and like they did the whole Indian garb thing and they got called out for it. So, but it was just like, but is that really like, if I go and watch, there's a Bollywood movie called Gully Boy, and it just talks about how hip hop influenced a lot of rappers out in India, and it's like when you look at what they wear, like because they idolize, Biggie and Tupac and whatnot. They did what they saw. They imitated what they saw that they appreciated. And so to me, that wasn't cultural appropriation. That was just, I appreciate this genre and therefore I'm really immersing myself in it. So
I get that. No, like I understand it from that aspect. Being a white person who has appreciated hip hop and R&B music since childhood, so like I get it because I've had eras where I wore Timbs and I had cornrows. But that wouldn't say I had cornrows for a second when I was like 17.
I wouldn't say to you that you appropriated. I would just say that you appreciate the fashion. You appreciate the culture.
So once again, I just because
if you tried to sell it.
Well, no,
then that's a problem.
But I also want to, because we have a channel here, and like I want to voice the voices that I think will get voiced in the comments if we put this up. Is like I think the other argument that a lot of people make, and I don't know what your response to this is that it's hurtful to people of color when certain things like the hair or certain clothing gets appreciated and worn, and even if the artist doesn't say it's theirs, like even if they're not selling it as theirs. Right? Because in our country, in America, people are still being persecuted based on those things.
Right.
So, for example, many people say, like, it hurts me to see people getting to wear box braids, but, like, I can't go to a job and wear box braids, right?
But again...
And so, like, that's the flip side of the argument that gets said.
But who do you fault? Do you fault the system or do you fault the people?
And that's kind of where I land, but
Right, and that's the problem that I have. Like, it's okay to be upset with it. Go and address the system, not the people. And
certainly to me, not Korean people who literally don't live here.
Right.
like
they watched
and I do appreciate there's a lot of fans out there that spend time writing very nice letters saying, just so you know, this hurts some American fans because in America, this is the reality. And Korea does have colorism issues. We've sort of touched on that on this channel before. I'm not saying Korea has no race issues.
Right.
They do. But their race issues are not the same as ours.
Right.
And so, like, for me, it's like, don't put our issues on people in a predatory way and in a judgmental way. You can try to educate them. You can say, hey, you have a lot of American fans. American fans might feel some type of way about this because, but I do land with you where it's like, be mad at the system. These individual people who are getting hairstyles but they're not the ones that made this system.
But I feel as though like when you have artists like, BTS to say like, look, hip hop and R&B really influence, just the type of entertainers that we are. Yeah. So like, shout out to those, to that particular industry. So I mean, I just feel as though I get frustrated because of the fact that we're not actually we're not taking it out on who it needs to be taken out on.
Totally.
And I just feel as though it's like, if you're hurt, you know, do you then go and hurt other people? That's what that's what bothers me. So because you're frustrated and upset, so what you're going to do is now attack and bash.
It also, the part I get frustrated, the other part I get frustrated is to what end?
Yes.
Because, like, for me, it's also like hip-hop and R&B started in the black community. It was a voice for people. It was absolutely a movement, a revolution of voice.
Right.
Yes. How insane is it that has gone so global? Now, if we had just stopped every single person who appreciated hip-hop culture and wore some box braids or whatever because they were appreciating it and they didn't understand it, would hip-hop have had the impact it's had today?
But that's what I'm talking about.
And that's the part to me, like, on some level, you be mad at the system. Don't be mad at the fact that this is such a loved art that it has had this impact, because the impact is not all bad. Like, the impact is actually largely huge and positive. So, and like,
that's why I say appreciation is great, because when people appreciate different cultures, one, it just broadens, you know, just your perspective of just other people. But then two, it also broadens other people's perspective of other, you know, countries. Like, had Joyce not talked to me about K-dramas or K-pop, I would not have been so I'm like open, like, oh my goodness, this is a whole
like, I just think about, like, even since I've gotten into K-pop, how much I understand, like, Asian American issues more that I didn't understand, and my own ignorance in some of that, right? Same thing with black culture. Like, if I hadn't listened to black music, I wouldn't understand so much of black cultural elements and race issues. Like, that's not taught in schools. Systemic problem. It's not taught in schools, and certainly not to white kids, like schools I went to, right? So, like, that was how I was, that's how I learned that we had race issues in our country. And so, like, that's the piece for me, is like, let's be careful, because to what end do you stop the spread of culture? Because then you stunt people's growth. On all ends. Like,
I agree.
So,
preaching to the choir.
I know.
And I think just because it's coming from Korea doesn't mean that every music that comes from Korea is pop. It's not. Like, they have...
Oh, not at all.
Yeah, they're not. Like, I think
anybody who actually understands Korean music knows that.
Yeah, like, just, like, let's not categorize it that way, because...
To me, that's one of my, like, you know... People will say, like, they've appropriated parts of hip-hop culture and all that. And, like, and that's true. Like, there is appropriation over the years that has happened. But, like, Korean music is its own thing. And has its own genres. And, like... It's not the same. It's not it's not just a knockoff. Some songs are just knockoffs. The good stuff is not just knockoffs. They kind of they meld genres really well, which is a thing Americans are so afraid to do.
And you can't be.
Like, that's one of the things I appreciate about K-pop, Korean music, like, whatever you want to call it, is the melding of genres. We should have done that, but Americans are everyone's got to be in their box. Like, everyone's got to fit their category.
But I feel as though there are some artists that did not have a problem. Like, I feel as though Beyonce doesn't have a problem with, like, taking different genres and putting them together. I feel as though there are some artists...
There are some, no. It's not like no one does it.
That doesn't mind doing that. But I do, like you said, they do it very well.
But the thing about it, here's the difference to me about America. Is in America, even if Beyonce melds genres, she's done country collabs, she's had rock elements in music, she will never not be in the R&B category.
You're right.
Because we put things in categories.
Right.
They don't put things in categories.
Like the whole thing with Justin Bieber right now, and like...
Their categories are like male soloist.
Right.
That male soloist could make...
Whatever.
Could be G-Dragon making Crooked. It could be Taeyang doing Eyes, Nose, Lips. It could be... Like, that male soloist is... Baekhyun is like one of my favorite... He does all of the different genres. Like...
Yeah, I just love how they just appreciate music. And that's what I see.
And that's it. That's what I see too.
Music appreciation. I feel as though, like, for me, one of my favorite singers right now is Golden. And I feel as though what he does, he appreciates, you know, those classic R&B, you know, type music.
Yes.
And then when he makes music, I want to marry that man. Like, I love his lyrics.
The fact that Golden is not literally, like, widely praised is a travesty to me. Yes, I do not understand it.
Like, I'm upset that I'm just now like hearing his
Golden
music.
should be on radio in America.
Yeah, he should. He should, and I don't know why.
Not that other Korean artists shouldn't, but there is no reason that
phenomenal.
Golden is not on 95.9.
He is like, oh my goodness, like I love his music, and like literally the first time I heard him was from Blue Tape with the song Oscar, you know, where it was a collabo.
Yep.
But then like being able to hear his other EPs, like.
But I just want to also point out that I sent her Golden like.
She did.
Along like 6 months ago.
I don't know why I wasn't paying attention.
I sent it to my whole friend group, and I don't even remember what I said, but I said, "This is amazing. You guys need to watch this." I don't know why
I didn't pay attention. Maybe I just didn't open it up, but I heard it, and I like the Hate Everything EP.
That's what I sent you. Yep.
It is absolutely.
I told you guys. I think I told you guys like I cannot stop playing this on my playlist. Like
his voice and I love Golden. Yeah.
Yep.